everyone, I'm Jake. Welcome to our channel, and today's video is full of information for all of you who are now planning to immigrate to Canada. And the biggest question that is lurking in your mind right now is which city to move to, because it was the same situation I had like 8 months ago. And two of the most popular cities which everyone likes to move to are Toronto and Vancouver, because they are the most developed cities. They have jobs, they have all the facilities, transportation, amenities, medical facilities, everything that a new immigrant need to start their new life in a new country. In this video, I will provide you with the most logical and realistic comparison between the two cities to help you make your decision. Now, before I move on, let me tell you that to move to Canada as a new immigrant, you need skills to find the right job. On that note, I want to tell you guys that this video is sponsored by Skillshare, one of the best online learning platform, a community where hundreds of courses are available and hundreds of teachers from all around the world provide the most valuable and informative tutorials. I am one of the most happiest subscriber of Skillshare. I learned a great deal about my videography or camera techniques, like the different frame rates or the resolution to shoot in, or the depth of field, and so much of the technical knowledge I've learned from this single platform. I highly recommend you guys to check Skillshare to develop any kind of skill that you need for your job, like the creative skill, artistic, painting, photography. It's like an ocean of possibilities of learning new skills. So best news for you guys is that if you subscribe it now, you are gonna get 2 months of free subscription, because I will be giving you a coupon code, a discount code. It's in the description. Just click on the link, guys. What is the best way of trying something when it is for free? Just try it for 2 months and I'm sure you're gonna fall in love with it. Alright, now moving on to the video comparison between Toronto and Vancouver. Alright, starting the comparison between Toronto and Vancouver. Being an immigrant myself, I've divided this comparison into 4 different categories which are relevant for any new immigrant, and I call them the 4 C's of decision making in which city to choose. Number 1, career, cost of living, climate, culture. Alright, so let's talk about the first C, the career or the job opportunities. When we talk about career or job opportunities, both these cities, Toronto and Vancouver, are at par with each other. They are the top 2 cities in Canada for job opportunities. But having said that, I also want to bring to your notice that Toronto is actually the epicenter of business in Canada. It is the financial city of Canada. The jobs are 10 times more than Vancouver. As per my personal experience and some of my friends who live in Vancouver, if in Toronto you can find a job in 1 month, in Vancouver it might take you 2 to 3 months. Now, another key element in job opportunities or career is your respective field, where your skills are applicable. So when it comes to Toronto, there is a wide variety of jobs available, whether you're in IT sector, retail sector, customer service, hospitality, hotel management, medical services, or real estate. You name it, and there is the job available for almost every field in Toronto. When we talk about Vancouver, even in Vancouver, tech jobs are there, medical jobs are there. It just takes little time to find the right job, in comparison to Toronto. But there are specific fields, like if you're in the field of digital entertainment or visual effects or animation, then Vancouver is home to the biggest visual effects and animation hub in the world. Big video game companies like Blackbird Interactive and Bandai Namco Studios have big presence in Vancouver. The film industry is another big employer in Vancouver. There are many film production studios. There are many companies like EA, Sony Picture Imageworks, Industrial Light and Magic. They all have studios in the city. Vancouver is called Hollywood North. So guys, if you're in the field of videography, film editing, or sound design, or post-production, VFX, then of course, Vancouver is the right place for you. Now, another big career opportunity that you can find in Vancouver is in the field of real estate. Real estate people are making a lot of money in Vancouver. One deal can get you 6,000 to 17,000 Canadian dollars. Anything related to real estate. Financing, refinancing, mortgage, renovation, sale, purchase, rentals. It is a big field and people are making good money. Now, having said that, Toronto has more jobs, but when we look at some statistics, it's quite confusing for the mind. I'm just going to show it to you on the screen, and according to this, the unemployment rate in Vancouver is actually lesser than Toronto. So you guys saw that the unemployment rate is lesser, but as per my experience, what I personally feel, jobs are much faster and easier to find in Toronto. So if you're willing to wait for 2 to 3 months to find the right job, then Vancouver could be the good place for you, but if you want immediate job and instantly start working, then Toronto is the right choice. Alright, so that was the first C, career. Now moving on to the second C, cost of living. Alright, now moving on to the second C, cost of living. Now when we talk about cost of living, there are so many factors involved in it. What is your average monthly income? What are the expenses? Grocery, monthly rentals, transportation, recreational activities, every single penny counts. From my personal experience, I can tell you that Toronto is extremely expensive city to live in. Alright, now on the screen I'm going to show you a basic comparison of small things like consumer prices and all between both these cities. Just have a look. So consumer prices in Toronto are 11% higher than in Vancouver. Rent prices in Toronto are 1.16% lower than in Vancouver, which is a very marginal difference. I mean, 1% is hardly any difference. Then restaurant prices in Toronto are 8.79% higher than in Vancouver. Grocery prices in Toronto again are higher, 8.48% higher than in Vancouver. Local purchasing power, which is the power in your hand, is actually 16% higher in Vancouver. So what I gather from all this data is that Toronto is actually more expensive to live than in Vancouver. I mean, yes, when I came to Canada, I used to hear that Vancouver is very expensive, but my personal experience is that in Toronto you have to spend a lot of money to live a good life. When I say good life, means money for eating out, recreational activities, traveling and all those things. Now, another important thing when it comes to cost of living is the average monthly salary that you get. Now I will show you on the screen a small comparison between both Toronto and Vancouver. Where, let's say for example, if the minimum wage rate is $14 per hour, then between both these cities, after tax deduction, what would be your net pay? Just have a look on the screen. So after deduction of all the taxes, when we talk about the salary, your net pay would be 85%. And when we apply the same formula to calculating salary in Toronto, your net pay would be 83.1%, which means 2% lesser when in comparison to Vancouver, because the taxes are higher in Toronto. We pay more taxes, even though the salary is a little bit different, but taxes are so much more that the purchasing power is more in Vancouver. Now, when it comes to cost of living, another very important factor for new immigrant is the traveling or the monthly travel expenses. In Toronto, public transportation on a monthly basis is quite expensive when it is compared to Vancouver. I'll just show you a quick comparison between two cities. So people in Toronto spend 6.5% of their monthly income on transit and spend an average of 96 minutes in journey time. Whereas in comparison in Vancouver, people spend 2.98% of their income on monthly transit pass. So I mean, according to this data, in Vancouver, the transit or the traveling expense is actually half of what we pay in Toronto, what I pay in Toronto. And when we say that time is money, then in Toronto, just between transit, you know, there are multiple transfer and traffic is more. So we end up spending more time traveling from work to home. Whereas in comparison, in Vancouver, we spend less time in traveling from home to work because comparatively it is a smaller city also and the traffic is less. So we save on monthly pass as well as time, both in Vancouver. Alright guys, so the second C, cost of living. From where I look at it now in the year 2019, Toronto is actually a more expensive city to live in. Alright, now moving on to the third C, climate. When we think about moving to Canada, climate plays such a crucial role in our decision making. Toronto, extremely cold. I mean, temperature drops down to minus 30, minus 40 degree and there is snow everywhere. You have to buy special snow boots to just walk in that snow, and of course layers and layers of clothing, which is, I mean, it goes without saying. It took me a lot of time to get used to it last winters. When we talk about Vancouver, climate is more temperate, yes, but let me just break one myth away. People think that in Vancouver there is no winter, you know, and it's just a warmer city. It is true, it is a warmer city in comparison to all other cities in Canada, but even in Vancouver during winters you get temperature up to 1 degree or sometime -4, -3 degrees as well, and there would also be little bit of snow, but it will not bother you. It might actually look beautiful. Whereas the snow in Toronto, it's gonna bite you. I mean, it's terrible, but once you get used to it, it's all good. So yes, when we talk about climate in Vancouver, it is much milder comparing it to Toronto. But there is one downside, and that is the rainfall. I mean, from 3 to 4 months, starting from September, October, November, December, Jan, and all the way to I think Feb. It's rainfall. Even in winters, the sky is always dark grey. You hardly see any sun, and if it's not raining, it's always drizzling. So you have to always carry a raincoat or an umbrella. So it's a wet weather. So it's a bargain, you know, which bargain you choose. You choose rainfall or you choose snowfall. So choice is yours. Alright, now moving on to the last and the fourth C, the culture. Alright, so talking about the fourth C, culture or the standard of living. I mean, in Toronto, the speed of life is extremely fast. It's a fast-paced city. Everyone is just running around to meet their monthly targets. In comparison, lifestyle in Vancouver is much more laid back. There is a better work and life balance. People are more chilled out. Now, other things which are included in culture, or let's say the lifestyle or the standard of living in both these cities, Vancouver is actually picture perfect. I mean, everywhere you look around, you will find a scenery. It's surrounded by mountains from all the sides, beautiful valleys and forests. You can go out for camping immediately. Whereas in Toronto, you have to really plan. Toronto is more like a concrete jungle. You'll see tall towers. When you go to downtown especially, tall buildings touching the sky and the CN Tower and whatnot. I mean, to get the feeling of nature or life, yes, there are a couple of parks here and there, but not like Vancouver. Vancouver is like in the middle of nature. So if you are someone who is more into outdoor activities like mountain climbing or camping, or even for that matter, you know, chilling on the beach for some sunshine, then Vancouver is the right place. Even in Toronto, there are beach, there are lakes, but nothing in comparison to Vancouver. Now, when we talk about the nightlife, I would say yes, Toronto is slightly better because, again, Toronto is 2.5 times bigger than Vancouver. There are more nightclubs, more restaurants, everything is more. But having said that, Vancouver is not far behind. Even night scene is pretty good in Vancouver as well. It's buzzing. Now, when it comes to environment, according to my friends who live in Vancouver, they have seen Toronto as well. The air quality or the overall cleanliness is much better in Vancouver in comparison to Toronto. My personal feeling, I've not been to Vancouver, but I feel that even the air quality in Toronto is extremely clean, especially in winters. Everything is like crystal clear. Now, from the perspective of parents, if we talk about the schools or universities or the education, medical facilities, both these cities are at par with each other. You cannot compare them. They both are excellent. And culture, even from the perspective of new immigrants, both these cities are equally multicultural. There's a massive South Asian and Indian population in Vancouver, also in Toronto. Toronto is like the multicultural mosaic of the world. I mean, you talk about Southeast Asia, Asia, Middle East, Europe, America, everyone is there in Toronto. You will find all nationalities. Whereas in Vancouver, again, Vancouver is also equally multicultural, but most of the immigrant population is dominated by the Asian, which is excellent. I mean, like I said, you cannot compare. Both are equally multicultural. So it's a matter of individual choice. If you're someone who is into more fast-paced life and tall towers and buildings and whatnot, then yes, Toronto is the right city. But if you're someone who is more chilled out and more work and life balance kind of a person who likes a weekend outing on a mountain area or forest and camping and whatnot, then undoubtedly choose Vancouver. Alright guys, so those were my 2 cents on choosing between Toronto and Vancouver. As of now in my life, I'm very happy in Toronto. Toronto is giving me everything that I need, and maybe in future I would like to go and visit Vancouver for holiday. So for now, based on this comparison, I'm sure a lot of you will be able to take your decision which city to move to. All the best to you guys to start your new life, and I'll see you next time.